I want to thank you both for being part of this conversation. So let's pretend that we are in my home and we're just having a casual conversation with a few eavesdroppers, okay? So I wanted you to kind of share some of the background information on how your two congregations got to a place where you began to see that there was a need for change. So what things were happening in the congregation that kind of made you feel uneasy or anxious, or things that were not necessarily a concern, but things that just were changing?
Well, we were contacted by St. Stephen's, and we knew that we had a situation. We had outstanding pastors before. We've been very fortunate. The Synod has really taken care of us over the years. And so our pastor was in a call process. We knew our finances were not good, but we weren't thinking about making a change. Mm-hmm. And then a familiar name from the Lutheran world got in touch with us. And so that's how it started for us. For us.
Okay.
I think for us, it had started at St. Stephen's with a fair amount of financial stress that was carrying over into our ministry in a negative way. And we knew that we were going to have to make some type of pretty radical change in order to continue our ministry. And we decided to seek out some alternatives from the Synod, and they gave us this idea of yoking, and we thought of our pals down the road that we had a pretty good feeling might be in the same boat, but we didn't know for sure, really. We didn't know how they were sitting, but we knew we weren't going to know until we approached them when we just asked.
Okay.
And we had to be brave, and we did it.
And thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. So I'm hearing there was a change in the pastoral identity happening as that pastor, and then there was a reality of finances, yes. And then you knew each other already. Is that what I'm hearing?
Right.
We did.
Pastor Tony Bradshaw and Pastor Marcus Allis were real good friends.
Okay.
And we've done a Bible school for a number of years.
Okay.
Because we ran out of youth at our church. But that laid the groundwork as far as I'm concerned. We knew the people there at St. Stephen's.
Yeah, I agree. It was the previous pastors who put the roots in place for the relationship, and then they moved on, and the fruit grew from there.
Okay. So was that over years or over months?
Yes, it was over years. Yes, and St. John's had gotten to the point where they didn't have any youth. We did have youth. They wanted to be with us and be with our youth and love them and nurture them, even though they didn't have them. Okay. They were still part of our youth's lives, and that's really where it started. And then it kind of went out from there with some other social gatherings and things like that. So we knew each other pretty well.
Pretty well. So then how did you said you had to be brave and come out and say there's this yoking thing. Would you consider, how did that happen? How did that conversation go? What were kind of the fears and challenges?
I think the fear for St. Stephen's was that, first of all, we were going to have to talk about money outside of our house.
Yes.
And we didn't really know the financial situation that St. John's was in. We had a pretty good guess, but you always kind of feel like an intruder when you talk to someone else about their finances. Right. But thankfully, they were really open with us and honest that we both were kind of sitting in the same place financially.
We thank St. Stephen's for contacting us now. It's been a great ministry. We had not been able in 2017 to pay only a third of our mission support. We were very, very concerned about being able to pay a full-time pastor, and so those things seem to work out.
What were some of the fears about thinking about going into a yoking relationship? Were there people who thought this isn't a good idea? Were there expressions of this might not be a good idea because
major concern was, what time are we going to have this ministry? And we were very much concerned about that. Since our pastor was in a call process, we didn't have to be concerned there possibly. Yes. But what time was it going to be? And then we had this survey about the times. And to start off with, both churches were going at 10:30. Okay. And so we took 45 minutes from each one, and we went 11:15 and 9:45 to start with. And so we voted on that for the different times, and 72% of our congregation voted 9:30.
Oh.
And I knew we were on our way.
All right.
If we're going at 9:30, I think we're going to be okay. And so.
Do you think it made a difference because you knew each other, that there was an established relationship, that thinking about worship time had to be a sacrifice for somebody, and because you knew each other, do you think that helped?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I think it helped. I think it helped immensely. And from the very beginning, we met over and over again, not only with each other, but with our own congregations to reassure them that this was not a merge. We were going to maintain our own separate identities, and we had to make that clear over and over and over again to both of our aging congregations. It had to be said over and over again to some of our
So there was
folks.
transparency all the way from the financial piece, all the way up to the process of how it's going on, and keeping that. Yes.
Excuse me. We were fortunate at St. John's. Larry Chapman was the head of our council at that time, and was well respected in our
Skip,
church.
I'm just going to get you to kind of point the microphone at your mouth so nobody misses a single word.
He was able to play both sides of the aisle during this.
Good.
And get all the concerns. You need someone that can guide you through it.
Right.
And so he was able to do that, and people were assured that everything was going to be okay.
Would be okay.
We had a very committed leadership team, 4 from each congregation, and the meetings were of utmost importance, and we didn't miss unless one of us had some kind of really big emergency. And so we were able to develop a very strong bond as a leadership team, and I think that helped to facilitate and make the process a lot more peaceful for our congregation because we had developed a strong relationship.
And Jeff Norris from their church was also a very, very, that's that Lutheran name from the past. That.
But you need some strong visionary leaders as well.
Oh, yes.
To kind of help the process go. And so we talked about some of the fears. What have been some of the surprises, some of the highlights, the unexpected things that were accomplished through this yoking?
It's been really great.
Okay.
We even have people that laugh at Pastor Dan Duke's attempt at humor during the service. They laugh. We've never had people laugh like that in church, and he attempts that.
Point that microphone.
Oh yes. So it's been great. But we've always had a strong outreach program, but now we're doing more things with St. Stephen's. We have a group, a bingo. They play bingo, and we go play bingo with them. We have a breakfast bunch, and they'll come in with us. They have a lunch bunch, and they also have a game night that we're starting to enjoy. And so we're doing a lot of things together. And
there's a lot of joy back in our congregations. There was so much stress, and we had lost members, and people were scared. I can speak for St. Stephen's definitely, and Skip, maybe they were like that at St. John's too, but it really just affected the ministry we were able to do because there was this fear, and that's all gone. There's joy that we have, and that's freed us up to do ministry with each other and outreach like we haven't been able to do.
We met at Yokefellow the other week, and our church was not able to. It's a food pantry and thing, clothing for those in need. And we didn't have enough people at this particular time to go. St. Stephen's filled right in, came right on and helped us out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of places where each congregation kind of has its strengths and weaknesses, and we fill in and give to each other. Like the community pool in their community is a fantastic pool. It's better than our pool, and so they always, for our big picnic at the end of the summer, they get their pool for us, and the kids come and we have a cookout together, and it's just those kind of things.
We had a tremendous turnout, well over 100 for we're small churches, and well over 100 people there for swimming and picnicking. And we're going to do it each year now because of this. It's been wonderful. We're in the 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 mode.
Yes.
We're rejoicing and we're praying all the time, and we're giving thanks. It's been wonderful. For us. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
The services too. There's been a vitality put back into our services, and it's we share special services. Christmas Eve, things like that. And our plan is to alternate those services. And it really is such a joy to be able to go to the other congregation and hear their choir and see their church and take communion with them at those special times. So that it's really added life to service too.
We're hoping our choirs can get together and do a concert for our sunrise service. We had the largest turnout we've ever had, and we knew we were also in pretty good shape. Pastor Dan did a sunrise service, then we had a breakfast, and then he did the 9:30 service at our place, and then 11 o'clock he drove and did the service there in Lenore. And so we asked, he came back the next week, and we knew we were going to be okay. So that's a pretty...
It's been a big commitment for him, and we are very thankful to have a pastor who is willing to commit to that, and it's a lot of balance and juggling, I would think, for him, and the driving is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not too far. Skip can tell you exactly how far.
It's first thing we did, we were concerned about him getting to St. Stephen's on time. And so I timed it out, and it was 13 to 14 minutes. We did that early on, so I knew he could make it. And the only one time that he's had a problem is, and Nathan, the choir director, had to go find him. The St. Stephen's women were selling pies out in the audience, out in the narthex there, and so he was out buying pies for some homeless thing. And so they started that service. He was late getting that started, and so we.
One of the real big surprises for us, you don't get to be a servant to other churches very often.
Yes.
And that has been a unique and joyful experience to give out servant love to another congregation. That we care about what's going on in their congregation, and if they need Dan to be with them for a special occasion and we need to give him up, we're willing to do that, and we've done that for each other. And the driving and being concerned about making sure that he has time to meet the needs of each congregation, that's a way that we've been able to give love to each other.
Yes. So you're living out your discipleship, even in your relationship to one another. And having one pastor, I think some people may think, oh no, we won't have the pastor when we need it. But what it gave you the opportunity to do was to be generous and to say, Pastor Dan needs to be there. So tell us a little bit about Pastor Dan. Don't repeat any of his jokes, but
I wouldn't dare.
Tell us why he is good for this type of yoking, because I know a lot of congregations, they worry about that. They really like the pastor that's there or a pastor they've had before, and so there's some hesitation at thinking of having a pastor serving in the two capacity that they may have a favorite or, some of those things. So tell us about Pastor Dan and why it works.
He listens.
He listens.
All of our pastors before, we've had great pastors, no doubt about that. But he has that ability to listen, and our senior ladies love him.
Okay.
And so we have, it just has that ability.
Awesome.
Gets involved. And when you take him out into the community, our Romeos, our retired old men eating out, we have a place where we go, and we take Pastor Danny in the first time and to introduce him to the lady. Oh, that's Pastor Dan. We love him.
Yeah,
He's already
yeah.
been out in the community, and
Awesome.
so they already know him.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
So it's
I think
helped
this
out.
was we have two older congregations. We do have some younger members, but certainly the majority are older members, and Dan seems to thrive with that population and just be gifted in being able to minister to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been wonderful to have that through him.
And our choir's grown.
Good.
We have more members in our choir, and now our adult Sunday school class. We only have one the adult Sunday school class, and now we do it after church. And now, of course, since we're after church, we've grown. Our adult Sunday school class we were meeting before,
Right.
and so now we're after, and that's grown also.
So an unexpected blessing is that having it after church
Right,
has greater
right.
numbers.
Our Sunday school has grown. We've had one major concern, and if people try this, and I hope that they will,
Okay.
because it's been great in our situation, is that he doesn't have enough time to greet.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing. He has
Yeah.
to come earlier, so he does his greeting before church, okay? And some of our people are concerned that they don't get to,
They don't get
to talk with him as long as, after church, you're out there and,
Right, yes, yes.
so we're having to work that.
So there are
work
still
that out.
things that you have to work on.
Right, that's been
it's
our
a
biggest,
good
concern.
situation, but not perfect, and
No.
we wouldn't think it would be perfect. So that is very helpful to know.
But our ushers let him know that during the piece, like if someone slides in late or something like that, so he can go greet them during the piece
Okay.
and that type of thing.
I just want to get into a little bit of the logistics of how you do this. Do you have two separate council meetings? Do you have a team that represents both churches? How do you handle that?
Yes and yes. We do have two separate council meetings. We still meet as a leadership team. That was something we committed to early on, that we weren't just going to stop meeting once Dan had signed on the dotted line and this happened.
Okay.
We needed to take a proactive approach and continue to meet. And we've lessened the meetings. We don't meet quite as often as we did when we were in the midst of this yoking, but we still make sure that we address certain things. So Skip and the other people on the team had let us know that there were a few concerns about the greeting, which seems like a small thing, but those are the
Right.
things that can get big quickly if you don't address them. And
Right.
that was the reason why we kept our leadership team intact,
Good.
is to address these
So
small
there's a
issues.
shared ministry team plus the two councils?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other wisdom? I know you've already given some about congregations that may be hearing this for the first time and thinking, our congregation is kind of in that situation, or congregations that have already begun having thoughts about possibly entering into a relationship like this, a yoking relationship. Any wisdom or insights you would like to give them other than the ones you've already offered? What would you be your parting words, your farewell discourse to them today?
Well, I just wanted to thank the Lord and thank
Yes.
the Synod for this.
You are the Synod, you know that, though.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Pastor,
You're welcome.
for reminding me that.
Yes.
But in Caldwell County, we have Team Went in the upper end. We have a young pastor at St. Mark's, Jonathan, and his wife's at a smaller church in Watauga County. And so we have that. Then we lost Pastor Dixon at St. John's on the Taylorsville Road.
Okay.
And we have a bishop filling in there
Oh, nice.
at that church. And then we have Pastor Dan doing the shared ministry in the middle of the county. Then we have a lady who sings from the pulpit at Philadelphia, and
Nice.
Pastor Klein. And then we're having a new pastor to come in to our midst at Amazing Grace. And we don't say wow at Amazing Grace, we say wah, at Amazing Grace, Pastor Frank Wah. And we thank the Synod because we have this type of support.
Yes.
You can't beat that
Yes.
that they carry.
We are in this together.
We are.
We are in this
We are.
together. Thank you so much.
Right.
Did you have anything you wanted to share?
I think the small advice I would give is to seek out the resources that are available in the Synod's office, and I'm glad that we got up the courage to speak to the office about that, because they provided us a tremendous amount of support and walked us through the process. And with their support, we were able to build our strength on that. We never felt like we were trying to navigate this by ourselves, and it would have been easy to kind of stay where we were and be maybe too scared to seek out some assistance. And I'm glad that that's not what we did. We got help and we moved forward, and our joy is back. Our ministry is back. We have a long way to go. We've got things we want to accomplish in both congregations and together, but we have the energy now to do that.
Yes.
Our energy is not focused on the stresses in the congregation.
And at our church, we paid off last year 1/3 of the commitment we made in 2017 on mission support.
Awesome.
And we'll finish that this year.
Awesome.
We'll finish out that, and we hope to get our mission support, because we understand how important mission support is for all of the churches in our synod.
As you said to me when I came to visit, we are better together.
Yes, we are.
We truly are.
Definitely.
Thank
We
you
have a great
both
time.
again. This was another brave moment in your life where you agreed to come and to be a part of this conversation. And I'm sure the eavesdroppers appreciate all the information and stories that they learned about you. Thank you. and
Thank
God
you.
bless
Love you.